it goes from low sales or zero sales, and they slowly increase. And the goal is to have them always increase as you go from January to February to March to April. As you go through the calendar, the ramp should start getting steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper as your sales go up. So that's what the ramp looks like. Now, if when we're talking about expenses, I want to define one category of expenses right now called overheads. Your overheads are those expenses that you are going to incur, to have, to be stuck with, to be obligated to have to pay in order to operate your business, whether or not you make any sales or not. For example, if you go into business and you have a retail clothing store, and you're going to have your first day of business and you open up your store, you're paying rent somewhere, and you've got lights on, and you've got a phone, and you've got just different things. And when you open up that door, if you don't sell anything at all, if you get really, really sad because you come home that night to your family and they say, "How were sales today?" And you say, "I must have done something wrong. Nobody knew that I was open yet. You must have not done your grand opening marketing properly because you didn't have any sales today." Well, even though you didn't have any sales today, it costs you money to be in business and have your store open. The rent that you're obligated to has to be paid whether or not you had any sales. The utilities have to be on, and the phone has to be paid each month. And there's many other expenses that you're going to have whether or not you have sales or not. But the distinction that I'm making right now is overheads are the category of expenses, obligations in business that you are going to have whether or not you make sales. So they're not directly related to sales. And some good examples of overhead are rent, telephone, utilities, insurance, loan payment on a vehicle, office supplies, things like that. Okay, now, in the example I'm giving you where I'm trying to teach what the ramp-up phase is, there's a period of time where the amount of sales or other income that you have coming into your business is not enough to cover what all of those overheads are. And all overheads aren't always exactly fixed the same amount. Sometimes they can vary a little bit, like your rent may be higher because it may be tied in your location to a percentage of your sales, for example. But let's just call these overhead. These are the fixed expenses that are going to be there. I've made my point pretty clearly, I believe. They're going to be there whether or not you have sales. So let's say that on month one of your new business, you have $1,000 a month of fixed overheads that you're going to incur whether or not you have an income or not. Well, let's say that your total in month one in your new business was only $500. Well, you're $500 short from being able to pay those bills. In month two, your fixed overhead is still the same $1,000, but you do pretty good in month two. You get your sales up to $750. You get a few repeat customers, you get a few new customers, and you seem to be moving forward. I purposely are giving some very, very simple numbers here. I could use numbers that are in the thousands, but let's just keep it simple. So month one, your overheads are $1,000, but you only do business of $500. In month two, your overheads are still $1,000, but you only do business of $750. So in month one, you're $500 negative. In month two, you're $250 negative. Okay, so you get to month 3, and we'll talk about how you get there without making enough money to pay your bills in a moment. But you get to month 3, and you have a wonderful thing to announce to everybody, your family especially. Your overheads are $1,000, but you hit $1,000 sales in month 3. So it took you 3 months to get to where your income was enough to cover your sales. I apologize. Your income was enough to cover your overheads, your expenses. Well, you're down by $750 until you have gross sales, in this example, of $500, $750, then $1,000. So you have $2,250 of income, but you've had expenses of $3,000. Well, there's a couple terms here that I want to hit you with, and before I hit you with them, I want to tell you, I was with Johnny Thomas the other day. Now that he's working and he's making some pretty decent money, he came to me and he said, Steve, now that I got money coming in, before I go too far with not knowing how to handle it, I want you to teach me how to budget, and there's 3 things that I want to be able to do. He said, 1, I want to know how much money I got to set aside to pay all my bills. Those are basically his personal overheads, his monthly expenses that are there. And he says, and I want to know how much money I can carry around for just pocket money, spending money that I don't really have to keep close track of, but I want to know how much I can spend before I spend too much. And the third thing he said is I want to be able to set aside money for savings so that I can start to invest. Well, I was with Johnny the other day, and I started teaching him this, and I had a worksheet for him, and it was kind of overwhelming to him, but I just wanted him to learn the idea, the concept, but I had a hard time getting Johnny to focus on it because it was very kind of complicated. I said, come on, Johnny, this is good. You asked me to teach you this, so come on, try to concentrate with me. And he just burst out laughing, and he said, Steve, this is like real accounting that you're trying to get me to do here. And I said, yeah, it is, Johnny, it is. I said, but it's not really that hard, and it's true. I'm a degreed accountant, 1975, VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, my alma mater, and I've been working, my whole career in finance and stuff. So, yeah, I got a whole lot more of a handle on this than most people do. But what I've tried to do with my program that I'm trying to present on the air to all of you that are taking the time to listen to me is I'm trying to take my 45 years of what I've learned in business and the concept of cash flow management and bring that into the personal budget more than most other people that teach budget do. Most budget courses are, this is how much I make in the month, this is what my expenses are, this is how much I have extra, or this is how short I am. Mine is more of a planning, thinking, a dynamic approach to your personal budget so that you can use your budget as a living tool. I know that this is Personal Finance and Small Business Ownership Part 2, but I can't just go into the business side without bringing the personal side into it with you. That's one of my main points I'm trying to get across, is no matter what you do, if you want to go into your own business, it's going to affect your personal life greatly, because if you don't make enough money from your business and you're not working another part-time job to supplement, then you're not going to make enough money to stay stable, and you're going to start having problems. So let me pause just for a second, because I just hit on something that I want to reinforce. One of the very best things that you can do if you're serious about starting your own business beyond going into it properly prepared and trained and knowledgeable by working for somebody else perhaps that's already doing that, learning on their nickel and getting so that you really feel like I know enough about it to succeed. I know all the different parts of the business because I had a job for so many years doing it for somebody else, and I learned the business, and now I'm ready to go out on my own. One of the things that is a very, very good way to succeed in your small business is to start small and grow big and not try to go big on day one. Don't put everything into it and have all that risk to where if you're really not going to be able to get it off the ground, you'll lose too much. So the suggestion is go into your business on a part-time basis in the beginning and then transition it to where it's full-time. If you're like a husband and wife and y'all have an idea to start a business, then maybe one of you keeps your full-time job and the other one goes into the business, and the one that stays full-time in the other job works part-time in the business, or any combination thereof. But the point is, keep your income coming in. The proverbial don't quit your day job does apply here. So if it's feasible to have supplemental income continuing to come in outside of your business opportunity, that's my suggestion for you on one of the best ways to embark on a small business after you know that you probably have all the right qualifications. Don't start your business until you have all the right qualifications, all the right experiences, all the right knowledge, have enough working capital. So now I'm going to go back to finishing up the concept that I want to give you today on the ramp-up period. So in the example that I'm working today, we've got a 3-month period from the day you started your business where you started off with 0 sales, and by the first month you had $500 in sales. The second month you had $750, and the third month you have $1,000. So if you're looking at that on a line that's going upwards as your sales is increasing, at the point where the income in your business is equal to the expenses that have to go out, that's called the break-even point, that's where it intersects at a point where I now am bringing in enough money to cover my expenses. Now I'm going to hit the pause button with you here for a second. This is very, very simplistic. And for those of you that are way beyond this level of education, I thank you for being patient with me, because I have to tell you, a whole lot of people that want to start their own business aren't seeing what I'm talking about yet. Now, if you go to one more level to make it a little bit more complicated, if you're at a break-even point, you're not making any money to pull out to pay your own bills. So the traditional example of a break-even point is not paying you, the owner, what you need to pay your own bills. So what do? What you do is 2 things. One is you redefine what your expenses are, and you put a dollar amount in there for what you need to pull out, because I go back to my statement. The purpose of your business is to be able to support your lifestyle, to be able to earn the amount of money that you need. And so when you set your goal here, don't just have a goal to hit your break-even point, because people that only hit their break-even point fail because they don't have any money for themselves. So I'm just redefining a little bit of a definition here about that. We're going to call that more of your need. Your need. Now, in business, if it's going to take you 3 months to hit that point that we're calling the break-even right now, of where let's add $2,000 in, and it takes you another 3 or 4 months to get to where you're making enough money to cover the full $3,000, the $1,000 of your overhead, and the $2,000 of which you really need. So you got to know your personal budget first. You got to know what your need is so that you can aggressively and proactively start directing your business to that. So however long it's going to take, what I'm trying to teach you is this. There's a period of time that you can see on paper, that you can see in black and white, where the ramp that you are doing as you grow your sales to cover your expenses, when your sales are less than your expenses and you're in the negative, you can add those numbers up over whatever period of time it is until you hit that break-even. Another word for the break-even that I want to give you is stabilization point, where it looks like you're stable now because you got enough to cover things. You can add all that up, and that is the calculation for how much working capital